Part 20. A Middle School Cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 191. Although Takahashi Makoto had vaguely mentioned before that after defeating Eiji Niizuma, he would be able to gain the right to have absolute support from the editor in relation to comics, however, the three insiders were tight-lipped about the specific content, and the editors on the editorial side were still don't know. But it doesn't matter now, because now, the only one who can stop the super killing of the manga artist Shinzuma Eiji is Makoto Takahashi, who has been playing soy sauce before. Adhering to the principle of heroes always appear at the most critical moment, at the critical moment when all the mangaka side were wiped out, Makoto Takahashi decisively rebelled from ally to final enemy, and stood on the opposite side of Arizuma Eiji. Although Yoshida is very curious about what strategy Makoto Takahashi will adopt in the face of the extremely fierce new wife Eiji, Makoto Takahashi did not reveal it until the manga manuscript came out. As a member of the association, a delusional self-proclaimed person, the secret work must be exactly as rumored, so sharp and powerful that it is outrageous. The content of a single episode cannot surpass Eiji Niizuma. If you want to defeat Eiji Niizuma, you must make a plan and use the right time, place, and people. Only in this way can you win. This truth was belatedly realized by the editor after the sacrifice of the cartoonist. The reason why it is said to be late is because the cartoonist's side has been burned out before, the magic value and health value have been consumed in the previous battle, and the ability to join the battle again has been lost. Although in terms of personality, the editor is indeed not able to compliment him, but from a purely comic perspective, Makoto Takahashi is indeed the cartoonist who has the best chance of defeating Eiji Shinzuma. What's more, now, the only fighting force left on the manga side is the crazy manga artist named Phoenix Academy Jujhen. Makoto Takahashi's noble phantasm is of course yokai manga, there is no doubt about this. But what will the plot be? Not to mention the editors who were onlookers, even the cartoonist who was defeated in the previous battle turned into a soy sauce onlooker with strong curiosity. After all, the battle between the evil cartoonist and the genius cartoonist, witnessing the whole process is already an exciting thing, so no matter what the result is, it is already satisfying for the onlookers. As for some unscrupulous editors or some lost cartoonists who set up gambling bureaus in private, just go to hell, ahem, that should be said, the mad cartoonist Phoenix Institute Kuma, and the Black Flame who has become the ultimate villain. The king of the world, Eiji Shinzuma, wants to use the battle between the two to make profits, whatever you gain, you will lose. Grit your teeth and let Makoto Takahashi and Eiji Shinzuma tell you what the truth is. So don't cry, hee hee. Yoshida's curiosity has exceeded the limit of human beings because of his strong anticipation. After getting the manga manuscript, he immediately entered the viewing mode. Makoto Takahashi was sitting cross-legged on the sofa with an expectant smile on his face, carefully observing Yoshida's expression. As for the assistants on the side, they looked at Yoshida with strange expressions, with sympathy and compassion flashing in their eyes from time to time. Due to the long-term mental impact of a certain crazy cartoonist, the assistants in the studio have developed skill trees and entered their own exclusive evolutionary branches. Although each assistant has his own evolutionary direction, Makoto Takahashi, the culprit, just silently watched everything develop and smiled without saying a word. If it's Mr. Yoshida, there shouldn't be any problem, right? Uncle Ding, Weno Aoi asked the big brother Ding Ding beside her in a low voice. After seeing the three manga manuscripts this time, I really wanted to know, what about Cheng? Guy, how much does he hate human beings? First of all, at my age, I can only be called big brother, uncle, or something like that. Although it sounds very handsome, in fact, in terms of age, I haven't reached this level yet. Secondly, I just want to tell you that the recent comics the plot in it's just because you have preconceptions that you feel uncomfortable. Cheng's depiction of the differences between monsters and humans is correct. There is no so-called hatred of humans. I want to tell you, Mr. Yoshida will definitely go crazy. 3-stage analysis, this is one of the secrets that Tintin masters. Uncle Ding, I won't talk about the beer belly. If you continue to gain weight without rhythm, what should I call you in the future? Forget about being round and round. You shouldn't use the name donut or something like that, right? When Oaoi switched to poisonous tongue attack mode, and the damage amplification skill with a 5% probability was triggered. Dujalu. Say it quietly. You must not interfere with the behavior of Juj Henchan watching and feeding the family cats. Mayuri has already mastered the cuteness of killing, and has already begun to move towards the path of evil cuteness. The one who lowered his head and said nothing was Jing He. He just looked up at the assistants who were talking quietly, and then, lowered his head and continued drawing comics. The first manga manuscript Yoshida saw was Inuyasha at the top. Previously, due to the appearance of the 7 people, Inuyasha and his party were in a tough fight, especially when they first started to contact each other. Kagome and his party were thrown to the ground. It was the dog Inuyasha who relied on the halo of the protagonist to turn the tide in the end. Originally, Yoshida thought that the content of this chapter would be similar to the previous one. When collecting the Shiken Jade, he fought with Naruko and the 7 people. Unexpectedly, the content of this chapter was about unrelated daily life. A lot of plots in the original work of Inuyasha were deleted by Makoto Takahashi, but for some plots, Makoto Takahashi still adjusted them and kept them. They did not release them at the beginning, but adjusted the order of appearance. For example, what Yoshida is reading now is that in order to find a medicine that can detoxify poisoned Mika, dog yokai and his group came to a village where herbal medicine is said to be grown. On the hilltop of the village, they met a man named Jinian, the kind-hearted half-demon. The half-demon Dinianer is huge, looks completely different from human aesthetics, and has a rather strange appearance. However, Dinianer's character is cowardly and timid, yet gentle and kind. Therefore, the local villagers always bully the honest Dinianer. And because of her personality, Dinianer always relies on her elderly mother to protect her. Although he had done nothing wrong, he was rejected by the villagers. He was so kind-hearted and treated every flower and grass with tenderness, but because he had monster blood, he was rejected by humans and looked down upon by monsters. This sentence was just the beginning, which made Yoshida frown a little. In addition to the strong visual contrast between Dinianer's appearance and character, it was more because of the content that Yoshida felt a little depressed. After giving Takahashi Makoto a meaningful look, Yoshida did not go into crazy mode as his assistants expected, but picked up the manga manuscript of the comics Liquor. In order to relieve the previous depression in his heart, Yoshida chose the typical royal comic Slippery Ghost to try to relieve the irritability in his heart, but it was a pity. After successfully defeating the Hag Oromo Fox, Nura Rikuo became the 3rd generation of the Nura clan. The newly started Hyakumonogatari arc involves the past events of Rikuo's father, the 2nd generation of the Nura clan. Repayment of debts by father and son is a plot that often appears in comics, so regarding this development, the typical royal manga Slicker also adopted the same approach. Yoshida didn't say anything, and the previous part of the 1000-year Kyoto chapter, although it was written by Idaimu and a continuation of the feud between the Hag Oromo Kitsune, but the result was a huge hit. Therefore, this chapter mentions the entanglement between the Nidaime and the Hyakumonogatari team, and Yoshida is fully looking forward to it. The Nura group, which has always considered itself a gangster, has gathered many monsters, but under the constraints of the 3rd generation, it has not done anything harmful to humans, and sometimes even helps and protects humans. Just as the previous generation said, the future society will be a society where humans dominate everything. Monsters can only gradually hide in the darkness, and finally slowly disappear from the stage of history. However, in this chapter of the manga, Rikuo, the 3rd generation of the Nuragumi, was killed because of the prophecy of the monsters in the Hyakumonogatari component, If you don't kill Rikuo, who is a hybrid of humans and monsters, the whole world will be destroyed. The half-demon slave Ryori Rikuo tried his best to protect the weak humans and monsters, but was hunted down by both humans and monsters. This chapter of the manga only tells the story of Rikuo's escape, and does not describe much about other things. But that's it. After reading the chapter Slippery Ghost, Yoshida's face turned completely dark. For a long time, as a royal comic, Slippery Ghost has rarely appeared content like this one. Although it can be said that the manga expresses it this way due to the needs of the plot, the content of this episode makes Yoshida's previous depression caused by watching Inuyasha even more depressing. A half-demon, Inuyasha is a half-demon, G-Neoner is also a half-demon, and Rikuo Nura is also a half-demon. Yoshida put down the comic manuscript in his hand and was about to pick up the Ute and the Tiger. As if thinking of something, he stopped his hand in mid-air, with an expression on his face as if he had been hit by a crushing blow somewhere. Hey, that can't be like that, right? It's really like this. Yoshida picked up the remaining manga manuscript on the table and quickly flipped through it. He did not read all the manga manuscripts like before, but only read half of the content, feeling ominously in his heart. My hunch has been confirmed. Acheng, the themes of the three comics this time. My beloved cat, have you finally discovered it? There are amazing similarities in the rejection of aliens, whether they are humans or monsters. My Phoenix Academy is fierce, just want to bring this truth that has been distorted by humans, restore and bring the so-called reality to the world. In response to Yoshida's doubts, Takahashi Makoto showed a deliberate smile. That's right, he has been protecting mankind and trying to live in peace with mankind, but he has been repeatedly attacked. They are rejected by humans. When facing monsters, because of their impure blood, they are naturally ridiculed. Yoshida covered his face in melancholy, saying that he couldn't listen anymore. Although the contents and styles of the three comics are completely different, they have a very high synchronization rate this time. Whether it is the half-demon Dinyaner Nurarikuo or the beast-shaped Xiaoqiao holding a beast spear, all because of their identities are between monsters and humans. They are neither accepted by monsters, but also rejected by humans. Although the three comics this time tell similar stories, Yoshida felt really depressed after reading it. The existence that has always protected weak monsters and humans is now being ruthlessly betrayed, and even almost lost his life. Is he a hero betrayed by his faith? Although the content is very depressing, Yoshida is really curious about what choices the characters sandwiched between humans and monsters will make in the following content. But can this kind of content really suppress Eiji Shinzuma better than the comic Crow? Yoshida looked at Makoto Takahashi with suspicion. My beloved cat, don't look so worried. The formula for victory has been completed, and the key chess pieces will be obtained next week. Takahashi Makoto looked at the calendar on the wall and smiled with an unknown meaning. There will be no rivals in front of me. With this battle, I, Fengguangai Yuankuma, will surely reach the top of the world. Ha 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 ha. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 192. At the beginning, Yujiro, as an editor, did not agree with Eiji Shinzuma's willful behavior of cutting his own manga in half. But seeing that after Eiji Nizuma did this, the fighting power of all the cartoonists exploded, Yujiro more or less guessed some of Eiji Nizuma's thoughts. Then, Yujiro betrayed the editor's side without any moral integrity, and stood on the editorial side. Here comes Eiji Shinzuma. Now in the entire Shonen Jump, the only one who can compete with Shinzuma-kun is the manga artist Makoto Takahashi from the Yoshida side. The other manga artists can't do it, at least not yet. Although it sounds a bit exaggerated, it is true. The evidence is that in this confrontation, all the cartoonists were defeated. Maybe Shinzuma-kun just wants to stimulate other cartoonists by doing this? Especially Ajuma Menha, whom Shinzuma-kun has been paying attention to, is really a pity this time, but this time, even the manga artist Hohoin Kuma may not be able to stop Shinzuma Eiji. Yujiro tightened the comic sample in his hand, put aside all the complicated thoughts in his head, and knocked on the door of his new wife Eiji's house. Knocking on the door is just a polite behavior. When Eiji Nyaizuma paints, he likes to turn up the sound loudly, causing the neighbors to suffer. Although Eiji Nyaizuma has now begun to use headphones, freeing the neighbors from the sonic hell life, but there are also disadvantages, such as the phone being always left unanswered, and someone at home ignoring the doorbell. Araizuma-kun, this is this week's sample issue. Before Yujiro could finish his words, the sample issue in his hand was quickly taken away by Arima Eiji. Is it finally here? The monster army, As usual, Eiji Nyaizuma will enter a realm where no one else is around him as long as he reads the comics. In terms of the degree of concentration alone, it has surpassed many human beings. Searched Kan on Google. Squatting on a chair and looking at the sample magazine of Shounen Jump that Yujiro brought, Eiji Nyaizuma fell into silence. Yujiro, who originally wanted to say something, looked curious and confused after seeing Eiji Nyaizuma's attitude. He craned his neck and took a peek, and found that what Eiji Nyaizuma was looking at was the 3 yokai comics of the Phoenix Institute. It feels a bit dangerous. Eiji Nyaizuma closed the magazine with a serious look on his face, grabbed the brush on the edge of the table, and entered cartoonist mode. The brush in his hand was flying on the manuscript paper. From time to time, Eiji Nyaizuma would put his face on the manuscript paper, and kept making strange noises from his mouth, but that's it, that's what makes it interesting. His Majesty, the Demon King who heals love, is indeed the last one enemies. Comics, it's so interesting, isn't it, Mother Crow? Danger, Yujiro looked at Eiji Shinzuma in confusion at first. After a moment, he realized what he was doing, with a look of disbelief on his face. Don't tell me, Shinzuma-kun, do you think Takahashi Makoto's manga this time? That's what I said. Eiji Nyaizuma stopped painting and turned to look at Yujiro with a very serious expression. If it weren't for the strong fighting spirit in his eyes, Yujiro would have thought Eiji Nyaizuma was angry. However, with this rare expression, Nyaizuma Eiji did not last long. Instead, he continued to draw comics. Of course, he did not stop talking. He kindly explained to Yujiro, same subject matter, different places choosing, you monsters, you have to work very hard. It's really difficult to deal with the 4 developments, so we have to go all out here and we must not lose. Seeing that Eiji Nyaizuma had no intention of continuing to explain, Yujiro had no choice but to leave. As for the previous explanation, Yujiro said that he only had a half understanding, but Yujiro understood one thing. Eiji Nyaizuma might lose this time, although Nyaizuma Eiji has an uncanny ability to predict comics, but this time, only this time, Yujiro hopes that his new wife Eiji's prediction will fail. So be sure to work hard, Shinzuma-kun. Hey, Chi-Ren, what do you think of the contents of these 3 comics by Aiken? Landai stopped painting, raised the sample magazine in his hand, and asked for help to his good friend. To be honest, the 3 comics, the content of the comic seems to be a bit contrary to the Royal Comics, and the style is a bit biased towards our evil comics, but something feels wrong. Hey, Akito, are you listening? Putting down the comic manuscript, the yellow-haired glasses man fell into a daze. Under the call of his good friend's love, he finally came to his senses and showed a weak bitter smile on his face. Hey, Supreme, we weren't before. Did you say that you want to draw an evil fighting comic in our style? The previous PCP was just an attempt. Although it failed to achieve first place, the final result of second place was still very good, although I have always thought so. Yes, but now after reading these 3 comics by Cheng, I realize that we were too simplistic before. Huh? Why do you say that? Although Landai didn't quite understand, looking at his good friend's lonely expression, he roughly understood that the root cause of his good friend's loss was the three comics that had just appeared in front of him. Although the themes of the three films this time are roughly the same, I am sure that the final development will be different. The yellow-haired glasses man opened the comic and pointed at the Inuyasha at the top of the list to the confused friend. The gay friend explained, in this chapter of Inuyasha, although it is about the life of the half-demon Dinianur, the most important thing is, if you think about it, the male protagonist of this comic is Inuyasha, and Dinianur, they are both half-demon beings. And according to Dinianur's memories, Inuyasha's life when he was young is surprisingly similar to Dinianur's. It's better to say that it tells readers about Inuyasha's past life from the side. Is that so? Only now do you realize that you are worthy of being Lord Lande? With his blue fur and cute attributes, the fierce Phoenix Academy who gave him the title Lande, indeed has unpredictable prophetic attributes. Not only that. The yellow-haired glasses man quickly flipped through the comic and jumped directly to the slippery ghost part. His tone was full of exclamation and admiration. In the new chapter of Slippery Ghost, he is also a semi, although the monster Rikuo is exactly the same as Inuyasha, the environment in which he grew up is completely different. Rikuo has not been rejected by monsters since he was a child. He has always regarded monsters as his family, and this what he said is that he has to face the pursuit of monsters and humans. If Inuyasha had an unpleasant childhood, then Rikuo's experience was depressing. Indeed, Lande, who felt the same way, also nodded in agreement. After all, the recent Slippery Ghost was indeed a bit depressing. The Nunliang Lushan, who had always been a defender of mankind, was now changed because of a prophecy. He became the target of both monsters and humans. This contrast between before and after made Lande feel like rushing over and killing the guy next door for the first time after reading the comic. But what makes me feel the weirdest is the comic Ushio and Tora. The yellow-haired glasses man was a little confused this time. Xiaoshio and Ahu have always been wandering between monsters and humans, but now they are rejected by both humans and monsters, especially the male protagonist Xiaoshio, because after holding the beast spear, he transformed into a powerful being. Although he saved many humans, it also made humans fearful, and because of the beast spear, even more the crux of the problem is that he has always been hated and rejected by monsters. He has been disgusted and rejected by the existence that has been saving humans and monsters. Xiao Chao has fallen into confusion. Well, when you say that, it does feel like something is wrong. Lande looked at his good friend, and after his good friend's advice, he already felt something was wrong in his heart, but he couldn't express that feeling. So Mr. Lande, you should just draw comics properly. Leave such a complicated issue to your good friends to consider, he is extremely smart and so on. Regarding the yellow-haired glasses guy changing his job to the yellow-haired bald guy, etc., looking forward to it. If Inuyasha represents a sympathetic childhood, then Slicker represents the collapse of faith after the betrayal of trust, and Tide and the Tiger is the beginning of the meaning of existence itself. The yellow-haired glasses man is already entangled. Although the order is determined according to the order in which the three comics were serialized, that guy Aiken used the psychological level very well from the shallower to the deeper. Although I am also very good at this, but I chose the same materials, to complete such a gradually growing content. To this extent, I really can't do it. That guy Aiken is indeed very powerful. Lande also realized from the narration of his good friend that Takahashi Cheng had a big plan, and he was a little surprised in his heart. Recalling the previous attempts that he and his good friends made together, now they can only be regarded as a small fuss, but when he thought of the previous attempts, Lande entered Kudo Shinichi mode, a light flashed through his brain, and he looked in shock. Looking at his good friend, huh? Wait, if you put it this way, could it be that this time Cheng will? There is a chance, but it's unlikely. The yellow-haired glasses man entered the wise mode and pushed up his glasses habitually. His tone was full of doubts. Choose the same materials to build the same beginning, and design according to the characteristics of each protagonist. Different developments, this approach is indeed very powerful, but I always feel that there is still something missing. So, what is missing? Landai said that he could no longer keep up with the rhythm of such leaping thinking. The tragic past that is pitiable, the helpless situation that makes people feel chilling, the confused heart that has nowhere to go. The yellow-haired glasses man with full thinking ability muttered in a low voice, while rubbing his temples and thinking hard, his eyes inadvertently scanning from the bookshelf. A comic book briefly describing the correct use of the small book of death flashed past. The ray of light appeared again and shouted excitedly, "I know. There is still a lack of death. But it is impossible." Death? Chiren, don't be ridiculous. This kind of thing is absolutely impossible. Landai's hidden attribute started slowly. After 5 rounds, he finally started to catch up with his teammates' thinking mode. If the protagonist of the comic dies, the comic will how to proceed? This situation cannot happen in the 3 monster comics. I know this, so I find it incredible. The man with yellow hair and glasses looked at the wall next to him, squinting his eyes as if he wanted to see the hidden truth clearly. The development of the 3 comics serialized at the same time has been roughly determined, but to achieve the best effect, these 4 developments must be used. Since Takahashi Makoto dared to draw like this, he must have thought of how to solve this problem. By the way, do you have the skill of perspective eyes in your talent, or have you received superpower development like senior sister Gufa? Humph. Want to see clearly what how Winkuma is thinking? You should continue to practice for 100 years, Mr. Yellow Hair and Glasses. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 193. This Friday is a different Friday. The first chapter of the 3 comics that Makoto Takahashi used to snipe Eiji Niizuma will know the result today. Although many editors on the editorial side thought that Makoto Takahashi had given up this battle after reading the comics, Eiji Niizuma will also cut off his comic crow with the invincible state of continuous first place. However, at this time, whether it is Eiji Niizuma who is fully prepared for the battle, or Yoshida who wants to kill people and is crazy, or Makoto Takahashi who is full of confidence and still maintains banquets every day, they did not relax their vigilance as expected by the editors and cartoonists. No, it should be said that they have entered a state of impending storm. And also today, the second season of the animation called Rebellion, which is actually Makoto Takahashi's most critical chess piece, ushered in the end of the finale. For readers who have finished reading the comic Rebellion, this animation is just to reawaken their love for this comic back then, but for those who have not read this comic, the ending of Rebellion is worth looking forward to. Lelich, the new Britannian emperor, defeated the White Prince Schneeisel in the last battle, mastered the most terrifying weapon, and ruled the world with violence and terror. Although there were many voices of opposition from the people, there was no more Black Knights for this tyrant, and the Miracle Maker Zero, who once brought people infinite hope and salvation, also disappeared without a trace. Seeing Lelich sitting alone in the car with an ambiguous smile on his face, many people who watched the animation had some complicated feelings in their hearts. Lelich finally got what he wanted, won the throne of emperor, and even became the king who ruled the whole world. Although the means were not glorious, although he conquered the world with violent and terrorist means, and although he came to the top of the human world as a tyrant demon king, but, the price he paid was so heavy. Lulu is fighting alone with this world, alone, so, even if I am alone, I can be the truth of Lulu. Even if Lulu makes me forget everything that happened, I fall in love with Lulu again. Even if my memory is tampered with, I still fall in love with you. No matter how many times I go through reincarnation, I will definitely fall in love with Lulu. This is fate, right? So, okay. Lulu, after reincarnation, I can fall in love with you again, right? No matter how many times, I will fall in love with you. Shirley, who has always had a crush on Lelich, recalled that Lelich was the murderer of her father after her memory was unlocked, but she fell in love with Lelich. When he finally fell in a pool of blood, facing the guilty Lelich, Shirley did not hate him. Instead, at the last moment, for the first and last time, she spoke her mind. Accompanied by Rena singing, this animation kicked off the prelude called tear-jerking performance. No, brother. Because I have always been a tool in someone else's hands, a tool of the cult and in brother's hands. Maybe I have always been used by brother, but those times are real, those memories finally made me a person. You are lying to me, right? You said you wanted to kill me, brother, you said you hated me, yes, as long as it is about brother, I know it no matter what. In order to save Lelich, who was betrayed by the Black Knights and fell into despair, Lolo paid the price of his life. Maybe Lolo already knew that Lelich had been using him all along, maybe Lolo already knew everything, but at the moment of death, he still did not say this feeling, but at the last moment, he still used clumsy lies to comfort his brother. The first season of Rebellion was broadcast, and Euphemia's death has made many viewers depressed. Many viewers who have not read the comics originally thought that the results would be better in the second season, but the death of Xiali, the sacrifice of Lugo Lugo, and the effect of tear-jerking music, the reminder of the dark value of resentment is rising, is constantly appearing above the head of Feng Guangai Yuan Kuma. Even the episode before the end has made many viewers resentful. Lelich takes Nunnally as the criterion for all his actions. As the prince with the strongest sister control, he unexpectedly chose to confront Nunnally and snatched the controller of the goddess of love from Nunnally. He even completely ignored Nunnally's struggle on the ground. When seeing Suzaku dressed as Zero appear, passing the defending soldiers and stabbing Lelich in the chest with a sword, many viewers who have not read the comics were stunned. Seeing Lelich fall in front of Nunnally, a brother who always wanted to protect his sister but eventually died in front of his sister, the audience's mood became heavy. However, when Nunnally touched Lelich's hand, she read Lelich's memory when Lelich was dying, and burst into tears after knowing that Lelich was going to bear the hatred of the whole world and implement the Zero Requiem plan. Listening to Nunnally's painful cry, the audience's heavy heart became stunned, and then fell into anger. As for the object of anger, it was the manga artist named Hao Winkuma, the screenwriter of the 2 seasons of Rebellion animation. The king is lonely. In the last part of the animation, a certain green-haired pizza witch lay on the carriage and sighed like this, which caused many viewers to fall into brief contemplation. Whether it was Lelich's death or the changes in the world structure, Lelich from becoming a hostage to the prince, to his death at the end, his life embodies the sentence very well. Lelich, who gained the power of the king, had lost everything until the moment of his death. And this is the price of becoming a king. Haha, not quite. Hey, Lelich. The last scene of the animation is of a coachman pulling the reins. The coachman showed a smile. He did not answer the pizza witch's question, but drove the carriage into the distance. At the end of the road, the wind was bright and sunny. Cloudless. Didn't Lu Dian die in the end? Many viewers, whose eyes were blurred with tears, immediately fell into a state of excitement and surprise at this fleeting scene. With anticipation and curiosity, I waited until the end of the animation, but Lelich still did not appear again, leaving the long-awaited audience disappointed. My King Lelich, you who have broken through your own shackles and carried out your own royal way, are you a hero? You are a hero, these are the words after the end of the Rebellion animation. Although many viewers were confused, the animation, that's it? As for whether Lelich is alive or dead, the audience's curiosity will not dissipate until this mystery is solved. Makoto Takahashi struggled with this problem for a long time in his previous life. This time, it is the turn of humans in this world. Compared with the audience who later discussed Lelich's life and death on the internet, Yoshida was more concerned about the next strategy adopted by Makoto Takahashi. After receiving the manga ranking results, Yoshida did not explain too much about the pity and ridicule in the eyes of his colleagues on the editorial side, but immediately came to Takahashi Makoto's home. Although when I was reading the manga, I thought this section would be very touching, but I didn't expect that with the music, the effect would be like this. After watching the last episode of Rebellion, Yoshida rubbed his red cheeks. He turned his head to look at Makoto Takahashi, who was deep in thought, sighed slightly, and got back to the topic. The results of the 3 monster comics are as you predicted before, and the rankings have dropped a bit. Hey. Although it's a plan, I still feel a little unhappy, Makoto Takahashi complained dissatisfiedly. Looking at Yoshida, he became very angry. By the way, who drew such content? Are you qualified to make such a complaint? Although knowing the content behind you, I will definitely be able to reverse the situation, but Chang, if possible, we should try to reduce the appearance of some similar content in the future. After all, Shonen Jump is a magazine based on kingly comics, and the abuse of the master. The plot is still. Huh? Is this level unacceptable? Huh? Sure enough, this world has no value in existence. Yoshida, who was already immune to Takahashi Makoto's speech, was still shocked by Takahashi Makoto's twisted emotion. However, Makoto Takahashi didn't care, but muttered to himself, "Does this mean I am a master of abuse? Compared with Jin Dada, the warrior of love, I am definitely a member of the orderly and good camp." Jin Dada didn't explain anything about his broken arm, his wife was killed by a minotaur, etc., which has been complained many times. The deceiving experiences of the 3 gang leader brothers, if put in this world, will definitely become a massacre that attracts hatred. Tool, as for the warrior of love, does anything else need to be explained? It is said that a certain white MLM beast in the absolutely neutral camp has been included in a future combat plan by a plagiarism maniac. Well, let time witness everything. Talking about the development of cruelty to death, it is indeed the most loving choice. Isn't this the level you are at? Yoshida complained in time, pulling out the comic sample he carried with him, trying to bring someone's twisted soul back to the right path. Except for the comic Inuyasha, Slippery Ghost, and in Ushio and Tora, I can't stand the encounter between the 2 protagonists. It's clear that Rikuo and Zayashio have always been protecting monsters and humans, but both monsters and humans are not. Are you going to do something like dislike and rejection? So, it's not humans or monsters that are wrong, but the whole world, Makoto Takahashi complained while sorting out the manga manuscripts on the table. Hey. In order to complete certain plans this time, I had to thinking about it. I still feel a little unwilling to become a believer in the hypocrisy section. After watching Makoto Takahashi lost in thought, Yoshida suddenly felt a little dangerous, especially after exiting the meditative state. Makoto Takahashi's remaining right eye flashed with mysterious fanaticism, and his face showed an almost cruel look. Smile, similar things have happened before, Yoshida intuitively felt, an ominous premonition. My beloved cat, Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida enthusiastically, his face turning red with excitement. To be honest, I'm tired of the little fights in the yokai era. Wait until the yokai era is over. After that, I want to draw some comics about love and justice to teach the human beings in this world the so-called nature of human nature. That's right, I will let the whole world understand the love and justice in my Phoenix Academy's fierce heart. Justice, drink, ha ha ha. Chen, are you going to draw a comic about love and justice? Yoshida, whose imagination was completely unable to develop, looked at Takahashi Chen with a dull face. Don't be ridiculous. Let's not talk about the 2 themes you said. Why do I feel that the tone you used when you said these 2 themes? Oh no, my cat has begun to evolve towards Cerno? This won't do. Speaking of which, rebellion has ended, so. Takahashi-chan looked Yoshida up and down, completely ignoring Yoshida's puzzled eyes, and his face became fanatical. "My cat, the first chess piece has been obtained, so next, let's proceed according to the previous plan. I have seen the ending of the King of Black Flame. By the way, will this really work?" Although Yoshida was full of doubts, he couldn't help but worry. "Although I am familiar with Makoto Takahashi's taste for playing bitter first and sweet later, no, it should be Makoto Takahashi's bad taste of suppressing first and then praising, but aren't you worried that you will get burned in the end? Are you provoking me, bastard?" The sudden king-like substitution made Yoshida stunned, and Makoto Takahashi rubbed his face hard. "Oh my, no, it seems that the seal can no longer be suppressed. Ahem, my cat, the final winner will definitely be me, because this is the choice of Steins Gate." They said the same words in unison, but the reactions were completely opposite. Yoshida held his forehead with his hand with a painful look, while Makoto Takahashi laughed wildly and wantonly. A virus called Shuyunibun has indeed begun to invade the human world. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 194. Among the three monster comics, Takahashi Makoto's real killer move is the comic Inuyasha. Due to the monster-killing incident in the village, the panicked villagers shifted their suspicion to Dinianur, so the men in the village prepared their weapons and planned to kill Dinianur. Dinianur, who was still working in the fields, did not resist the attack of the angry villagers, but curled up tremblingly and cried helplessly. Dinianur's elderly mother rushed out with a broom to try to stop the villagers and protect Dinianur, but facing the fear of the murderous monster, the villagers had begun to lose their minds. Just when the situation was out of control, Inuyasha and his party appeared in time. Kagome, who had communicated with Dinianur, understood that this kind-hearted half-demon was not a murderous monster that was causing trouble in the village. Kagome stopped the villagers' behavior and hoped that the villagers would give time for her party to find the real monster. However, the ignorant villagers did not believe Kagome's assurance that she would travel with a half-demon, but chose to gather everyone's strength at night to kill Dinianur. Inuyasha, in order to find the real monster, left the village, followed the smell all the way, and found the monster entrenched underground. Looking at the remaining eggshells after hatching, Inuyasha realized with horror that the mother demon took the newly born little monsters and set off for the village, intending to teach these little monsters to learn hunting. This means that Kagome, who stayed in the village, is in danger. Just as Inuyasha's previous evaluation, Dinianur, who has a huge body and a gentle personality, has never resisted. As a half-demon, without such awareness and fighting spirit, it is natural for him to be bullied by the villagers. Facing the hatred and abuse of the villagers, Dinianur's cowardly performance made the readers who watched the comics fall into anger. On the one hand, the anger comes from the ignorant behavior of the villagers, and on the other hand, the anger comes from Dinianur, who is angry at his lack of struggle. Just when the villagers were in conflict with Dinianur, the real monster appeared. Many readers were already upset about the kind-hearted Dinianur being framed, and the villagers were ignorant and untrustworthy. Seeing the plot in the comics where the octagonal monster brought the little monsters to kill the villagers, many readers felt happy when they saw this. Especially when they saw Dinianur showing strong fighting power to protect Kagome, and smashing the octagonal monster with one blow. The villagers in the comics looked surprised and fearful, and many readers felt much more comfortable. However, Dinianur, who showed strong fighting power, did not blame the villagers, and kindly sent herbs to the villagers for treatment. Such a development made many readers feel helpless, and once again sighed that Dinianur was really a kind-hearted half-demon. Similar scenes also appeared in the two comics Ushio and Tora and Nura, the ghosts that were serialized at the same time, but relatively speaking, the shock was not as much as Inuyasha. Although the content of this episode has already made the ranking of Inuyasha start to rise, Takahashi Makoto knows that this is not enough, so in the new episode, Inuyasha's childhood is added. Hey, did Inuyasha ever have such a thing happen? Being bullied by humans. After solving the incident, Kagome asked Inuyasha with curiosity. Fool! I won't keep silent and be bullied. Although Inuyasha has a proud expression on his face, both readers and Kagome already know that Inuyasha did suffer such an experience when he was a child. Sure enough, I was bullied, Inuyasha. Inuyasha neither admitted nor denied Kagome's words, looking up at the sky, fell into silence. As expected by a certain yellow-haired man who loves to push glasses, the content of the comic Inuyasha directly turned from the story of Denianur to Inuyasha's childhood life. Like Denianur, Inuyasha has never seen his father, but lived with his mother Izayoi in his childhood. Unlike Denianur, when Inuyasha's mother Shizeo was still alive, although he was also rejected, hated, and bullied by the humans around him, but Inuyasha didn't know the reason for all this. When readers saw Inuyasha's appearance as a child, they were stunned. Although his appearance didn't change much, Inuyasha's innocent look when he was a child really killed many people. According to the words of a certain gorilla, cuteness is justice. But the following plot made many readers' inner depression values rise to another level. Inuyasha, who was confused, looked at a group of children playing kuju, and showed an envious expression on his face, wanting to join in. However, those people teased Inuyasha and deliberately kicked the kuju far away, asking Inuyasha to pick it up. When Inuyasha, who was full of joy, came back with the kuju, he found that his previous playmates were whispering words like half-demon and scattered with mocking and disdainful eyes. Inuyasha looked at the scattered crowd innocently, with no pain or anger in his eyes, only confusion. For the young Inuyasha, the behavior of these people was completely incomprehensible. So when he saw his current Izayoi appear, Inuyasha ran over happily. Whether out of curiosity or the desire to blend in with the crowd around him, he opened his eyes wide and asked his mother this question innocently. What is a half-demon? Izayoi hugged the little Inuyasha, tears kept falling, but Inuyasha, the person involved, looked confused, not knowing why his mother was crying. Seeing this, not to mention the large number of female readers in the gathering place of Inuyasha, even many male readers before felt their eyes were a little swollen. Compared with beings who keep complaining to others, beings who are in suffering without knowing it are even more uncomfortable. Inuyasha couldn't understand the reason why he was rejected and disgusted, so he looked innocent, because this guilt has been transferred to the readers. Because I am neither a human nor a monster, I cannot be accepted by both parties, only by relying on my own strength can I protect myself and get a place to live. By the time I find out, I am already alone. This is the only way I know. After the memory killing, Inuyasha looked indifferent to Kagome's question and said these words. Inuyasha, I'm a little happy. Because Inuyasha, you spoke to me like this for the first time. I want to know your sad past. Inuyasha, no matter what you think or what you are thinking about, you can tell me so frankly. I'm very happy, so sometimes you want me to see your weakness. Kagome was stunned at Inuyasha's words, and then hinted at her thoughts, and of course did not forget to give appropriate comfort. It doesn't matter, because Inuyasha, you are no longer alone. Not alone. As the end of this comic, Inuyasha's inner monologue gives readers who have been mentally attacked before a chance to heal. Yes, gradually, I don't know when, I feel that Kagome's presence is natural. From the incident of Denianur to the embarrassing childhood of Inuyasha in the past, to the emotional interaction between the male and female protagonists at the end of the comic, readers who read the comic feel like they are riding a roller coaster. There is definitely sadness and depression, but the dialogue at the end of the comic is like a miraculous light that breaks through the darkness, healing the reader's depressed hearts. So from the beginning, taking Inuyasha as the strongest killing move was indeed Steins Gate's choice. Teacher, why do you draw like this? With the title of teacher, Jing-hee took the initiative to ask Takahashi Makoto his doubts. Privately, Takahashi Makoto does not ask everyone to call him teacher or master. After all, it is too arrogant to call him such a title for his age in the world. What's more, this kind of soul engineer profession can affect other people's lives. Takahashi Makoto, who thinks he has not yet reached the level of a sage, is afraid and uneasy when others call him sincerely. It's not the teacher, it's Phoenix Academy fierce master. Makoto Takahashi put down his paintbrush and looked at Jing-hee, who looked confused, with a patient look on his face. Ryuko, there are clouds in the art of war, but the reality is fictitious. The truth is, don't limit your sights to the King of Black Flame. Our ultimate strategic goal is the entire world. You who were born in the dark world should understand this simple truth. I don't understand. Although he is not very good at communicating with others, for some common sense in life, Jing-hee said that he can completely abuse the peer in a white coat in front of him. Although the strategy of suppressing first and then promoting is a commonly used method, I think it is used too much, and readers may have become accustomed to it. For readers who are already familiar with the manga's Phoenix in murderous character, this strategy is already commonplace. From the earliest comic DN to the current 3 monster comics, this method has been used many times. It may have been okay at first, but after using it too much, readers have become resistant. The ranking of previous comics has dropped, except for sadism. In addition to the main content, there may also be reasons for this. Jing-hee, who has serialized comics before, naturally raised his own objections to such a strategy. Habit is a very scary existence. Makoto Takahashi didn't know what he thought of, and a smile appeared on his face that made his assistants horrified. If you are really used to it, then your plan to conquer the world in the future will be very helpful. Bad feeling. Ueno Aoi turned aside to the colleagues around her. Everyone stopped painting and listened carefully to Takahashi Makoto's words, suddenly feeling a sense of fear in their hearts. Especially looking at the weird smile on Takahashi Makoto's face, Ueno Aoi sighed helplessly and whispered to Tintin, "It seems, Pandora's box has been opened." "Same feeling," Ding Ding agreed with deep feeling. "Think about it carefully. There will be a comic in the future. When the story develops to the point where the protagonist faces difficulties, my followers are used to the development model of previous comics, so they are very optimistic about the crisis faced by the protagonist. Thinking, oh, it doesn't matter, the reversal will definitely happen in the next chapter, or after all, this is the habit of the Phoenix Academy's fierce god. As a result, the development of the manga suddenly subverted the habit and entered the dark, tisk tisk tisk, thinking about such a scene, the touching joy, my soul is already unbearable. Makoto Takahashi, who became happier as he talked, has fallen into delusional fanaticism, while all the assistants have fallen into the opposite situation. Amidst the cold weather, especially Miss Aoi Ueno, she shivered when she recalled the previous short comic Crayon Shin-chan, and her eyes looking at Makoto Takahashi became a little fearful. So the 3 monster comics this time, choose such content. Jing-hee River's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he immediately understood Takahashi Makoto's idea, not only to snatch the first place from Mr. Nizuma, but also to plan for the future. That's the basic situation, but unfortunately, Ryuko, you still think too simply. This is just the first step of the plan. When Takahashi Makoto was about to start the Chudaxiao mode, Yoshida intervened with excitement. Chang. This result. Was it because of the run or because he was too excited? Yoshida was out of breath when he spoke, holding the statistics sheet in his hand and shaking it at Takahashi Makoto. What, my cat, have you lost your language ability? Because the Chudaxiao mode was interrupted, Takahashi Makoto was a little unhappy. When he was about to switch to the taunt Yoshida mode, the phone rang again, and the caller ID was, the editor-in-chief of Shonen Jump. Well, my cat is indeed here, I understand, Thank you very much, Commander. Ha ha ha. After hanging up the phone, Takahashi Makoto burst into inexplicable laughter. When his assistants were puzzled, he suddenly slammed the table, with an expectant smile on his face, and announced with full momentum, "Gentlemen, now I, Fengguanga Yuan Kyoma, announce that the Eastern Operation Plan is fully launched. Let miracles come to this world, for the glory of Fengguanga Yuan Kyoma." The expected cheers did not appear, nor did the scene of 100 responses. The battle call of a certain middle school student was completely embarrassed. All the assistants looked at Takahashi Makoto in confusion. Speaking of the Eastern Operation Plan, what is it? A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 195. Is it true, that Guy Chang, actually achieved such a level? After learning the result from the phone, Mr. Huang Mao with glasses looked surprised, while Lan Dai, who was drawing at the side, was also surprised. He stopped painting and looked at his good gay partner with a surprised look on his face. He opened and closed his mouth, trying to say something, but nothing came out. Hey, Chi Ren, could it be that Guy Aiken? Lan Dai, who was still in disbelief, asked his confirmation question again after seeing his good friend hang up the phone. Then, it's Inuyasha or Slicker? It's Inuyasha. The yellow-haired glasses man lay on the sofa with a helpless expression, relaying the information from Hattori's editor. According to Mr. Hattori's words, from the statistical results, the number of votes this comic received is the same as that of Koruo, the two comics tied for first place. The difference between Slicker and Tide and Tiger was only a dozen votes. Wait a minute, there is a difference of more than 10 votes. Lan Dai was silent for a moment, then looked at his good friend in surprise. That is to say, humph. I'm afraid that's it. Because of the assistance of Slicker and Ushio Tora, the support rate of Crow has dropped, and among the three comics, the content of Inuyasha is relatively outstanding, so this is the result. The yellow-haired glasses man smiled bitterly. I thought that Aiken, the three comics, would hold each other back, but I didn't expect that it would turn out like this. If the two comics tie for first place. Lan Dai suddenly remembered something. Does this mean that New Wife's comics will still be cut in half by himself? About this. The yellow-haired glasses man took off his glasses and looked at his good friend with a wry smile. Mr. Hattori said that the editorial department, including the editor-in-chief, did not predict such a result. Therefore, the editor-in-chief's decision is to agree with Shinzuma-kun to cut off Crow. Cheng's phone number. Lan Dai was about to discuss the future development of the comic with his good friend, but was interrupted by Takahashi Makoto's call. He answered the phone with a puzzled look on his face. Dai complained unhappily, Moxie Aiken, are you calling at this time to show off? Tisk, 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 this kind of tone of a lost dog. Do you really care about the result? Makoto Takahashi's sarcastic voice came over the phone, leaving Lan Dai speechless. If he lived next door, he would come directly to the door to talk. That's fine, why bother calling? Drink, ha 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 ha. Great gods will not be controlled by mediocre mortals. My name is Phoenix Academy Fierce Truth. So, Cheng, what do you want to say? He interrupted Takahashi Makoto's release of brainwashing skills unceremoniously, and Lan Dai went straight to the topic. You who serialize 3 comics at the same time, logically speaking, you don't have enough time to do this. To what extent? I'm angry, I'm angry. Lan Dai is angry. The shouting voice came not only from the phone, but also from the walls, which were not very soundproof. It was also completely unable to stop someone's pretentious shouting. Not to mention Lan Dai, who was answering the phone. Even the man with yellow hair and glasses had a dark look on his face. Well, are you interested in attending a banquet? Don't refuse in a hurry. This is the one who is participating in this banquet. The cartoonist is fighting against the King of Black Flame, So, come here immediately. This is the order from the leader. Can you please not go? Before Landai could refuse, the call had been hung up. Originally thinking that she lived next door, Akan Mumenjai thought she was the first to arrive, but after entering the door, she found that she was the last to arrive. Although I had heard it on the phone before, I was still a little stunned when I looked at the people present. In addition to Eiji Nyaizuma and the cartoonists of the Fukuda group, there were also the editor-in-chief and Makoto Takahashi's editor-in-chief Yoshida. Oh, as expected, the hero always appears at the last moment. Looking at Ajumu who was a little reserved after coming in, Takahashi Makoto showed a joyful smile, turned to look at the editor-in-chief, and asked solicitously, "Commander, the designated number of people has arrived. Can we start briefly describing the mission outline? My point of view is still the same as before, as long as they agree." The editor looked at Makoto Takahashi seriously, and then glanced at the main combat forces on the cartoonist side. "Since I have promised you before, then as per do what you say. But I still stick to my point of view. Comics can be serialized if they are interesting, so. Then." Bowing slightly, Makoto Takahashi walked to the center of the living room and looked at the summoned brave men with a smile. No, they were cartoonists, and began to enter the plan analysis mode. "Next, the association will the third apostle, I, the white-faced Phoenix Courtyard Fierce Wiseman, will give you a brief introduction to the Eastern Dominance Plan." "Wait a minute, Chang, what are you going to do?" Brother Fukuda was the first to ask his question, looking at Makoto Takahashi with a puzzled face. "Although I heard Yujiro mention it before, but now this Oriental dominance, what's the plan? If you don't make it clear, I won't just join in this weird plan." "Ahem, Makoto Takahashi once proposed to me before that he wanted to gather a certain number of cartoonists to serialize a comic on Shonen Jump." The editor-in-chief coughed lightly, attracting everyone's attention. A strange light flashed under the flat glasses. "Use 2 issues of Shonen Jump to serialize a short comic series." What? Except for Eiji, who already knew the news, everyone present was in a state of surprise. 2 issues of Shonen Jump to serialize a comic? Everyone looked at Makoto Takahashi with puzzled and strange expressions. Only a certain Chuyunibu could come up with such a crazy idea, right? Are you kidding me? How could such a random thing be allowed? Brother Fukuda, who had come to his senses, was the first to get angry and looked at the editor-in-chief angrily. "And it will take 2 weeks. I will use my time to draw other comics. I absolutely don't approve of this. Does Masters in Z agree?" "Of course I agree. Because it's very interesting to say." Nyaizuma Eiji squatted on a chair, his eyes flashing with excitement. "It takes 2 issues of Shonen Jump to serialize a comic, although it is still I don't know what the comic is about, but it sounds interesting. Hey, Phoenix Academy teacher, what kind of comic is it?" "Everyone, you must have tried your best to encircle and suppress the King of Black Flame, right?" Makoto Takahashi suddenly asked quietly. "Hey. Although you successfully got the first place, there seems to be a lot of water in that first place, right? And even so, we don't think that we have completely lost in the comics." Brother Fukuda's words won. There was a lot of approval. "So Chang, don't think that just because you won by chance, you can do whatever you want. There are no accidents in this world, only necessity." Makoto Takahashi shook his head and denied Brother Fukuda's words. "What I want to say is that after participating in the Oriental Dominance Project, the story plot and character design, you don't need to think about anything, you can just draw. Isn't it our long-cherished wish to conquer the entire comic book world and dominate the entire Sun Jump? The sky is dead, the time has come, but now you are still hesitating? Join me on the fierce side of the Phoenix Academy, become a fang and a sharp blade, create a new era in the comics industry with me, and become a participant in building history." The cartoonists of the Fukuda group were in a state of hesitation. As Takahashi Makoto said, In order to stop the super god killing of Eiji Shinzuma, the cartoonists on the cartoonist side had tried their best. The plot and character design had a flash of inspiration. It has been burned out in the previous battle. Instead of rushing to draw some stories that are not exciting enough, why not take this opportunity to think about your own comics? According to the exchange of equal value, if you want to get something, you have to give something. After everyone fell into deep thought, Takahashi Makoto suddenly started talking about unrelated things, although it was like living in his own world without anyone else. The appearance among them made people feel very uncomfortable, but Makoto Takahashi did not realize it. As a reward for inviting you, after the era of monsters is over, the Phoenix Academy, will give up the rights to serialize 3 comics at the same time. Go. Hey. These two things don't seem to be related at all, right? Brother Fukuda complained unhappily and looked at Makoto Takahashi seriously. Let's talk about it first. If it is involved in your Eastern hegemony plan, if the comics are not exciting enough, I will definitely not participate. Yoshi. Capture a Tsundere Fukudaemon. Next is the fusion beast Ajumumenha. Makoto Takahashi turned to look at the group of good friends. Choose to be fierce with my Phoenix Academy. Should we really cooperate and bring the wonders of the East to this world? Or should we choose to bring the miracles of the East to this world and cooperate with our Phoenix Academy? Aren't these two choices the same? The good friend looked at each other and sighed helplessly. The man with yellow-haired glasses pushed up his glasses and asked Takahashi Makoto on behalf of him, "It sounds very interesting. By the way, I really want to know, what kind of story do you plan to draw if you want to dominate the Shonen Jump comic? And I wanted to ask you from the beginning, you can serialize 3 volumes at the same time by yourself? With the ability to draw comics, it shouldn't be difficult to draw such comics alone, right? Excessive confidence is wrong, it is arrogance. Although I can complete it alone, when it comes to completing a large copy of Young Jump, I still have to choose a team. After all, at critical moments, you can betray your teammates." Takahashi Makoto completely ignored the editor-in-chief on the side, with a fanatical look on his face, and if only one comic appears in Shonen Jump for 2 consecutive weeks, this kind of main combat force of the entire organization has been destroyed by our Phoenix Academy. The feeling of being in control makes me feel very loving just thinking about it. Under the fierce leadership of my Phoenix Academy, the entire comic world, no, the entire world is already in our possession, and we have no rivals ahead of us. Drink, ha ha ha. The so-called conspirators, the masterminds behind the scenes, always like to build a great blueprint, and then lead like-minded people to work tirelessly for this goal. Takahashi Makoto's practice in this area has reached the master level. Not to mention Brother Fukuda, who had previously held objections. Even Little Sea Otter, who had always hated drawing comics, became a little excited. Little Sea Otter, as long as you follow my arrangements this time, I can give you a chance to get first blood in a solo kill. There is no doubt that this is the result of someone's brainwashing before. Although it was obviously a lie, when it came to Miss Kang Shuhong's matter, the Little Sea Otter's IQ was already below the critical value. The participants have been confirmed. Seeing that all the cartoonists from the Fukuda group have joined his plan, Takahashi Makoto showed a happy look on his face. "As the price of joining me, I will lead you to conquer the entire Shonen Jump." Commander, as mentioned before, because some popular comics need to be suspended for 2 weeks, will it start in those 2 weeks? I hope the comics you are talking about. The editor-in-chief did not finish his words, which made the cartoonists who were in a frenzy and excitement exit the auxiliary effect and come back to their senses. Yes, I didn't even know what the content of the comics was, but I was fooled by this guy Takahashi Makoto to join it. Humph. Of course. When I was living in another world before, there was a saying that was circulated all over the world. Takahashi Makoto ignored the contemptuous eyes of his teammates around him, and sighed with nostalgia. "I have no regrets in entering the East in this life, and I wish to live in Gensikyo in the next life. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 196. By the way, Master Phoenix Academy, why do you want everyone to come to my home? The little sea otter looked at Makoto Takahashi, who was the first to arrive, with a puzzled look on his face, and asked his own question. As a result of this Eastern dominance plan, the initiator, according to common sense, shouldn't the location be chosen at your home? Why? Humph. Little sea otter-kun, don't you understand the painstaking efforts of the god of the Phoenix Academy? Takahashi Makoto patted the little sea otter's shoulders with both hands, and a smile appeared on Takahashi Makoto's face, just like when Yoshida fooled the little sea otter. The reason why: on the one hand, I want to tell everyone that the battle headquarters is in your home. This is the grace of the Phoenix Academy god to his followers. On the other hand, think about it carefully and participate in this event. Is there a young lady named Ken Shuhong among the people who planned the battle? Yuri-chan. At the mention of Miss Aoki Kurane, the little sea otter immediately fell into a panic mode, with an unknown smile on his face, as if he was trapped in some kind of delusion. After Takahashi Makoto performed many healing spells, the little sea otter finally came to his senses, and asked Takahashi Makoto with a silly smile, "Master Phoenix Academy, does this matter have anything to do with Yuri-chan?" Little sea otter, you are so ignorant. Alas. Makoto Takahashi showed an expression of hatred for steel, and sighed helplessly. He pointed at the whole room and switched to the devil temptation mode. Use your brain and think about it. Come on, little sea otter. If the Yuri-chan in your mouth draws in this room, as time goes by, he will gradually get used to living in this place. In front of the lady, you can show your hard work in drawing, and you can increase your favorability. At the same time, it will cultivate the eldest lady's familiarity and sense of belonging to this family. It will be very convenient for the eldest lady to change her job to a wife in the future. Kami-sama, it is my lifetime honor to be your disciple. Even the title has been changed. Sure enough, the little sea otter beast has been completely tamed. Speaking of Miss Ken Shuhong's existence, for the little sea otter, it is indeed an inescapable betrayal. He casually threw out matters related to the eldest lady, and successfully put a pet collar on the little sea otter. Takahashi Makoto secretly sending a look to Yoshida. Practice has proven that in terms of difficulty, taming a sea otter is as simple as it gets. Seeing the sudden realization on the little sea otter's face, Yoshida couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. However, thinking that this would improve the little sea otter's enthusiasm for painting, Yoshida didn't say anything. This plan for the little sea otter was an impromptu conspiracy between Yoshida and Takahashi Makoto on the way here. At first, Yoshida was worried that the plan was too simple and would be seen through by the little sea otter. But now it seems that not only has it not been seen through, but the effect is outstanding. Did I really overestimate the IQ of the little sea otter? Cheng, by the way, why did you choose Hiramaro-kun's house as the location this time? Completely ignoring the little sea otter, who was in a happy delusion, Yoshida asked Takahashi Makoto in a low voice, with a worried look on his face. By the way, what are you planning again? Because there are so many people participating this time, looking at the cartoonist side, only little sea otter's home can accommodate so many people. Makoto Takahashi looked at Yoshida's disbelief, spread his hands helplessly, and continued to explain. The actual situation is that the maximum number of generals that can be stationed in my barrier is 10. Is the room not big enough? Yoshida held his chin and thought for a moment, then asked Makoto Takahashi tentatively, speaking of which, Cheng, you are now considered a popular cartoonist, so you spend some money to buy a big house. How about it? Based on your current ability to draw comics, even buying a villa with a swimming pool is completely affordable, so. Huh? My beloved cat, do you think I'm that idiot like the little sea otter? The tricks used on the little sea otter can't even break through the defense for my Phoenix Academy fierce one, Makoto Takahashi said with a look on his face. Interrupting Yoshida's words with disdain, he looked at the shining golden wall clock on the wall. Tisk, 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 the time magician's wall clock is really a luxurious decoration. Only a fool like a little sea otter would be. You encourage me to buy these flashy things. Hey, those guys haven't arrived yet. Half an hour after the agreed time, Takahashi Makoto finally gathered his teammates. Gentlemen, please engrave this memorable day in the deepest part of your soul. Because the time has come for us to launch a revolution, launch a war, subvert the organization and rule the world. According to usual practice, morale boosting is naturally required before taking action. Declaring, Takahashi Makoto pulled up the collar of his white coat and stood in the center of the living room with a serious face. In order for the glory of the yokai era to become the eternal shining sun on Shounen Jump, we alone cannot do it. Therefore, it is necessary to summon the ghost Yakumo Murasaki from the gap, and take the red and white unruly Maiko to look for the black and white Marisa. Makoto Takahashi's speech continued, and Yoshida, who was designated as the substitute by the editor, completely ignored someone who had entered the non-human world and distributed the materials that he had painstakingly compiled before to the hands of the cartoonists. Yoshida firmly believes that the completeness and resolution of the information just sent out are 100 times better than Takahashi Makoto's incomprehensible explanation. In the end, is it still a monster comic? Landai quickly looked through the information in his hand, showing a helpless look, interrupting Takahashi Makoto's speech. Speaking of which, is it really okay for Cheng to do this? From these information it seems that the protagonists are a little unclear. In terms of appearance rate alone, this character wearing a red and white Maiko costume should be the protagonist, right? Brother Fukuda looked depressed. If he were to draw an upskirt maniac or something, this would be fine, but drawing beautiful girls, even monsters, is a subject that they are not good at all. Monsters, Maikos, vampires, magicians, it's very interesting. Eiji Nizuma flipped through the pages the fastest, but because there were so many characters involved, he was dazzled and he was completely addicted to it. Huh? There are also ghosts and ghosts, as expected of the master of the Phoenix Academy. They are all said by cute girls. Ah no, they should be said by female monsters. Gensokyo is located on the border of eastern countries. All kinds of non-human creatures, such as monsters, live here. Since there is a strong barrier blocking the outside of Gensokyo, the existence of Gensokyo cannot be confirmed from outside Gensokyo. Moreover, it is impossible to enter Gensokyo from the outside, and it is also impossible to confirm the appearance of Gensokyo from inside Gensokyo, so the monsters have established a civilization here that is different from other places. After reading the setting. Afterwards, Miss Kang Shuhong and Iwais Aiko looked at each other and said nothing. Instead, the man with yellow-haired glasses pushed up his glasses and looked at Makoto Takahashi curiously. Speaking of which, Chang, didn't you already think of the setting when you were drawing Slippery Ghost? Amazing, he is worthy of being a glasses man with yellow-haired blood. His analytical ability is fully activated. Has the third stage of gene lock been opened? Makoto Takahashi looked at the thoughtful cartoonist and said nothing. He admitted shamelessly, that's it. When I was building the era of monsters, I said that the era of monster rule gradually fell into decline with the increase in the number of humans and the advancement of human technology. The monsters have lost their former high and dominant position, and can only retreat into the darkness like the Nura group in the Slippery Ghost and become an existence to protect the weak monsters, or like the Tide and the Tiger, like many monsters in it, they live in seclusion in the mountains. But looking at these data, the monsters live in a barrier called Fantasy Township and have not lost their habitat due to human development. The man with yellow-haired glasses put down the data in his hand and looked confident. Everyone looked at Makoto Takahashi, and took over Makoto Takahashi's words and explained to everyone, Gensokyo, the pure land that exists in fantasy, is an ideal land where monsters only live. Chang, am I right? Why are you looking at me like this? Yellow-haired glasses gentleman, you have a lot of ideas. Sure enough, the king of Black Flame is right. You and Landai may become a very troublesome existence in the future. With sincere admiration, relying on the person in front of him with these data, the man with yellow-haired glasses can analyze so much content. Has he really begun to evolve? Takahashi Makoto shook his head, put aside the distracting thoughts in his heart, and continued to explain, although I really want to praise you, but Mr. Huang-haired glasses, you are still too sweet. The ending of Monster Age is set according to the multi-line ending of the girl development game. A girl-raising game. After hearing this title, the combat effectiveness of all the cartoonists dropped sharply by 1 level. This Eastern domination plan will serve as the ending of the yokai era. Another ending of the yokai era will appear soon. This will lay the foundation for my hegemony and allow our Phoenix Academy to be fierce and powerful. Body, become a god who rules over the whole world, drink ha 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 ha. I think it's better to choose the story at the beginning. The yellow-haired glasses guy pointed to a certain story in the information, completely ignoring Makoto Takahashi, who was in a laughing delusion, and started to make a new plan for his teammates around him. According to the entire information, the first incident should be this. But in this way, many things are unclear. Takahama raised objections. As a cartoonist with excellent logical reasoning skills, he naturally has a unique way of creating suspense. I think at the beginning, it is best to start from the mutation event, choose a suitable entry point, and then slowly add the background setting. Hey, those things don't matter. Brother Fusion finally finished flipping through the information and looked at everyone helplessly. Speaking of which, do you think that only 2 weeks can handle the content that Aiken has given us? Draw everything without revealing anything. The cartoonists collectively fell into silence, and then all shook their heads. So, Chen, what do you think? Brother Fukuda turned to look at Takahashi Makoto, with a puzzled look on his face. If it were drawn into a serialization, it would probably be able to draw out the story bit by bit, but on the contrary, because there is no main line, the story is likely to be cut in half. It is God's responsibility to guide mankind in the correct direction of action, but the silver-haired little brother. Makoto Takahashi picked up the information collection on the table with a smile on his face. How will the world develop? The choice of the times, what kind of development model we enter, is the choice of mankind. What we can do is to create an era and build a world, that's all. Chuyuni's brainwashing was activated, and the cartoonist couldn't evade and was hit. The universe has an origin, but no end, infinite. Comics also have an origin, but they will disappear with the passage of time, finite. My believers, followers, and temporary teammates, let us do our best to build this comic, and then ignite the hope called love, inspire the infinite creativity of mankind, and make the limited comics become infinite existences, forever existing in the long river of time. I swear in the name of Hao Winkuma that Tuhao Gensokyo will become a meteor across the sky, and the beauty of this moment will be forever imprinted in the hearts of mankind. That's right, all of this is the choice of Steins Gate. Not to mention Yoshida, even the cartoonist has already knelt. In the end, is the root cause still Steins Gate? A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do SD Mao. Chapter 197. Ah, I can't do it anymore. Little Otter lay on the table, panting, and entered the mud mode with a tired face. God. Tisk. Little Otter, is this all you can do? Takahashi Makoto did not stop painting, and continued to paint quickly on the manuscript paper, and kept fooling Little Otter with his mouth. This is God's trial, this is the task you chose for your job change. It's time to show your man's perseverance. For a happy life after the job change, fight with all your strength, little otter. But, observing that Miss Kang Shuhong was not there, little otter's combat power and willpower dropped sharply, and he was relieved. Lying on the table with tears in her eyes, if this continues, I will definitely die. Oh, bad, my eyes have already started to lose sight. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow smoke GW. Is this okay? If the young lady wakes up and sees the devastated little sea otter, she will definitely break up, right? Although he said so, Takahashi Makoto turned his head and looked back. In addition to the devastated little sea otter, Yachin Mumanjai and Gao Ben were almost at their limits. Brother Fuxian had already discussed the Iron Wall shorts with Zhou Gong, so the rest, is there Nazuma Eiji? Tisk. Is it impossible to continue fighting at this level? Mortal bones are just mortal bones after all. By the way, Ah-Chang, and Nazuma-kun, aren't you sleepy? Looking at Nazuma Eiji who was still writing furiously, Lan Dai rubbed his eyes and looked at the two with surprise. By the way, are these two people really human? This is the third day. Apart from daily necessities, such as eating and going to the toilet, these two people have been drawing all the time, and have never stopped. Are those who can serialize two comics at the same time all monsters? At the beginning, the cartoonists on the cartoonist side did not realize that Tohou Gensokyo, which took 2 issues of Shonen Jump to serialize, would require a huge amount of comic manuscripts. 1 issue of Shonen Jump requires 20 comics. According to the calculation that 1 episode of comics has more than 20 pages, more than 400 pages of comic manuscripts need to be completed, so when the cartoonists on the cartoonist side started drawing, they found that they were tricked by Makoto Takahashi. 1 issue requires so many comics, so 2 issues require about 800 pages of comics. Although there are 2 months to prepare, more than 800 pages of comics. Although there are many cartoonists, more than 800 pages of comics. Although Makoto Takahashi and Yoshida provide good logistics support, special chef's food, plus a soft big bed in a luxury apartment, more than 800 pages of comics. In addition to the comics they are currently drawing, everyone has to find time to finish their own comics. Although they have the help of assistants, the situation is still not optimistic. What's more, Makoto Takahashi said before that he doesn't need to spend time on Tohou and has time to think about his own comics, but the problem is that, under the condition of ensuring rest time, being able to barely complete the drawings is already the limit. Who has the mind to conceive their own new comics? So the cartoonists on the cartoonist side cursed and abused Makoto Takahashi while falling into a crazy rush to work. Hey, Black Flame King, you are almost reaching your limit. Rubbing his sore shoulders, Takahashi Makoto turned his head to look at Nazuma Eiji lying on the table. Takahashi Makoto's tired tone was still full of teasing. You can persist to this extent, you are worthy of being my opponent. But let's stop here. If you want to resist the Lord of Phoenix Temple, you are still 100 years too early. Ha 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 ha. Without responding to Takahashi Makoto's mockery and provocation, he suddenly stopped painting. Nazuma Eiji pinched the corner of the manuscript with both hands, put it in front of him and looked at it carefully, and a happy look appeared on his face. The 3rd chapter is finished. The 4th chapter begins. Ryumu-chan, Marisa-chan, the comic is super interesting. Tisk. Are you still maintaining this fighting power? But Takahashi Makoto temporarily stopped the brush in his hand and put the comic aside. This side is also finished. It seems to be a tie again. Then let's start the battle again and decide the winner, King of Black Flame. Duel. Oh, I couldn't ask for it, Your Majesty the Demon King who heals love. Duel. After responding to Takahashi Makoto's duel invitation in time, Nazuma Eiji and Takahashi Makoto entered the next game. It's not a game of saving the world by playing cards, but a competition of wills between cartoonists, a collision of cartoonists' souls. By the way, you two are really energetic. Landai complained helplessly, looked at his good friend who was sleeping in an ugly posture, tightened the brush in his hand, and started a new day of busy work. Originally, the yellow-haired glasses guy didn't have to participate this time, but he couldn't give up his good friend, so he used the excuse that Yachin Mu Menjai was a two-person team, and the weird excuse of carefully observing the thinking methods of evil painters and genius painters, and came here to be lazy. After all, the yellow-haired guy was responsible for conceiving the plot, and Landai was responsible for converting the story into comics, so compared to other cartoonists on the cartoonist side, Yachin Mu Menjai had the easiest time. As for the two women, because they have triggered the hidden characteristic of women are not beautiful if they don't sleep, their work and rest schedules are very regular, and of course the progress is very slow. For such behavior, Takahashi Makoto began to doubt the original intention. Decision made. Speaking of these two eldest ladies, one is already a famous lady and the other seems to be preparing to inherit the mantle of Master Mija. Do they still need to sleep to replenish their demons and maintain their beautiful human skin feathers? If a man wants to become a god in the new world, he should learn from the little master, kill his sister to prove it. Damn it! King of Black Flame, you actually opened a cheat. This is a foul. After finishing his emotion, Takahashi Makoto turned around and saw that the drawing for the first page of the fourth episode of Eiji Shinzuma had been completed, and he suddenly shouted loudly. He shouted, "Coach, this guy is cheating. Let him pull out the screws. I strongly recommend that this cheat king be thrown into the infinite breeding team." Speaking of Takahashi Makoto, it seems that the biggest cheat king is you, okay? Hey, Supreme, have you ever thought about it? Looking at Makoto Takahashi and his new wife Eiji who were sleeping on the table, the man with yellow hair and glasses had a mysterious face and whispered to his good friend, "Eastern, is it really Ah Cheng who came up with this comic series?" Huh, the surprised Landai cried out unconsciously, but after looking at his good friend's silent gesture, after thinking for a moment, he immediately lowered his voice and looked at his good friend with a puzzled face. "Chiren, why do you say this?" The relevant information of the comics was compiled by Mr. Yoshida based on Cheng's dictation, so the source of these comics is undoubtedly Cheng's original work. Of course I know this, the yellow-haired glasses man sighed helplessly, but I still can't help but wonder, after all, how did that guy Aiken do it in such a short period of time? Hey, if Cheng knows about this kind of thing. Landai secretly glanced at Takahashi Makoto, who was lying on the table, with a gloating smile on his face. "I will definitely use swastika on you, Chi-Ren. Do you understand?" Ahaha, this guy Cheng smiled awkwardly. The man with yellow-haired glasses looked at Makoto Takahashi uneasily and found that the guy was holding a paintbrush in his right hand and was shaking it randomly. If he hadn't seen his mouth with the drool dripping from his side and his eyes tightly closed, the man with yellow-haired glasses thought Takahashi Makoto was still painting. "You've already fallen asleep. Are you still unwilling to stop painting?" "Akito, it's best not to talk about such things again." Landai also looked at Takahashi Makoto, and his face became serious. After all, being unreasonably doubted about the originality of comics is definitely a problem for cartoonists. Kind. Yes, I know. But it always feels a little incredible. My story matches your comics. To be honest, since we cooperated, I have always believed that we are the best cartoonists. Mr. Huangmao glasses. He glanced at Makoto Takahashi and Eiji Niizuma who were in dream mode, with a disappointed expression on his face, and complained to his good friend in a low voice, "But looking at Makoto and Eiji Niizuma, I suddenly felt like a failure. Niizuma-jun is temporarily not to mention. Let's just talk about Cheng, who debuted a year earlier than us, and became a popular cartoonist on Shonen Jump like Eiji Niizuma. I won't say much about the sales of single comics, as several consecutive comics have already been published. It has been animated, and I heard from Mr. Hattori before that an animation company is already contacting Mr. Yoshida, and seems to be preparing to buy the animation rights of Slicker. It's animated. Landai kept mumbling, but his expression gradually became dull. Did he really switch to missing girl mode? Wanting to animate his own comics has been the goal that Ajumu has been working tirelessly for. Unfortunately, he has never been able to talk about it. Moreover, watching cartoonists in the same camp complete this task one after another, the name the Yachin Mu Menjai combination also started to get anxious. Damn it! Aiken and Shinzuma-kun are really two monsters. The yellow-haired glasses guy became increasingly irritated the more he thought about it, and suddenly complained unhappily, whether it's the ability to construct a story or the inhuman physical strength. Hey, Tops, these two are really human beings, aren't they monsters in human skin? And that exaggerated drawing speed. After adding casually, Landai came back to his senses and looked at his good friend with a speechless face. I mean Chi-Ren, you have been beaten by that guy Aiken. Is the Chuyuni virus infected? Hey, Supreme, do you still remember what Mr. Hattori said to us when we first went to Shonen Jump to submit an article? Seeing his good friend pretending to be disgusted, the man with yellow hair and glasses subconsciously started the topic. Transferring skills is a joke, but the facts cannot be changed. With a look of helplessness on his face, the man with yellow hair and glasses began to vent his troubles and confusion to his good friends. Mr. Hattori said that as long as we continue to persevere, we can surpass the new wife within 3 years. June, surpassed Chen in 5 years, but now I feel that we have been deceived by Mr. Hattori. Are those two monsters really capable of being surpassed by humans? They can conceive such a complex content and a huge amount of content in a short time. Worldview, I asked myself that I couldn't do it. Recently, while we were staying together to complete the comic series Eastern, as a bystander, the man with yellow hair and glasses really felt the state of someone playing cheats without moral integrity. Whether it's the storyline or the characters with distinctive personalities, Takahashi Makoto's endless creativity makes the yellow-haired glasses man feel the pressure of the cheating devil and fall into a state of fear and confusion. Whether it's your story or my painting, there is indeed a gap in comics compared to the two of them. But Akito, the value of a good friend is to activate the high spirit skill at a critical moment to boost morale or something like that. We are Yajo Mumenjai. Whether it's surpassing Nazuma Eiji or Takahashi Makoto, as long as we keep working hard, we can definitely do it. Yeah, the man with yellow hair and glasses is no longer a child. After changing his job to become a wife control, his all attribute abilities have increased significantly, and his comprehension ability and qualifications are also good. He is no longer at the level of junior high school. Holding his good friend's hand tightly, the man with yellow hair and glasses said sincerely, "Thank you, Supreme. It turns out that choosing to draw comics with you is the right decision." This is disgusting, Akito," Landai complained helplessly, but his eyes kept wandering between Takahashi Makoto and Nazuma Eiji. "That's it, although I can't compete head-on now. Sooner or later, I will be able to catch up with you, or even surpass you." Sorry to interrupt your love show. Although I know you are good friends, please finish your work seriously now. Takahashi Makoto suddenly turned around and leaned on the back of the chair. "If you want to change your job to become a brother who masturbates, and interfere with my Fengguangai Yuan Xiangjin's plan to dominate, I don't need to say more about the result, right? Wife and children are separated, family is broken, and death is just a small matter. I think you will be happy to try it. Although it's a bit late to say it now, thank you readers for your support all the time, whether it's a reward, a monthly ticket or a recommendation ticket, I will remember it in my heart. I just want to say that this book is being written, and I am writing it seriously. If it doesn't match the ideas of all readers, please forgive me. During this time of writing the book, I haven't asked for anything, so I sincerely say thank you for your support. I update slowly, and recently due to various reasons, I have been interrupted from time to time, so I feel guilty. Sorry, meow. What I want to say is that you can read this book and just relax for entertainment. I don't think this book can be upgraded and evolved into a great existence like a textbook, so I hope all readers will forgive me. Thank you, meow. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Mao. Chapter 198. I'm really sorry, Teacher Phoenix Academy. Miss Kang Shuhong bowed her body, her tone full of apology, and said to Takahashi, who looked tired. Iwai's Aiko puffed her face and said nothing, with an expression like don't expect this lady to apologize to you, gritting her teeth and staring at Takahashi Makoto. On the battlefield, there are only enemies and teammates. Since you have chosen to join the battle as a teammate, you must have already made up your mind. Regarding your behavior of holding back at critical moments, even if you sincerely apologize afterwards, it will be useless, and the eldest lady also forget it, but Siren Girl, what's your expression? The level of dark resentment is constantly setting new records. Makoto Takahashi looked at the two women in front of him with an evil expression, a dangerous light flashing in his right eye. Men and women are equal. But it is one of the laws of this world, but what you have done has completely overturned this law. Where is equality? The practice of ignoring everything just because you are beautiful is just the arrogant and inferior nature of human beings, especially women. As expected, has this world become so depraved? My heart aches. Seeing Makoto Takahashi reprimanding the two beauties like this, the cartoonists beside him didn't say anything. Even Yoshida, who was always vicious and soft-hearted, folded his hands in front of his chest and looked on with cold eyes. Miss Aoi's drawing of comics is relatively slow, so the overall progress of Touhou has been delayed a lot, making Takahashi Makoto and Nyaizuma Eiji, who had already completed their respective tasks, busy again. As the author of Touhou, Makoto Takahashi had no choice but to rush to work because he was dragged down by his teammates, while Eiji Izuma made atonement to eliminate his guilt because of Iwai's Aiko's behavior. Essentially, their moods are different, but as far as the result is concerned, the duel of staying up late to draw comics continues. Combinations of cartoonists are not uncommon. In addition to the good friends Ajuma Menha, there is also the strange combination of the King of Black Flame and the Siren. The reason why it is said to be weird is because Siren Girl deliberately imitated the model of Ajuma Menha, wrote her own story to provide the plot, and let Eiji, the new wife, draw it. If it were just like this, even if Siren Girl was asked to join the Touhou project as soy sauce, Takahashi Makoto would not say anything. He would just be like some yellow guy who wears glasses and reads comics next to his good friends every day. Acting cute and so on, as long as it doesn't disturb others, people watching the party will always be treated well. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. But this Siren Girl Iwai's Aiko, after more than 2 weeks, she confidently said that she couldn't draw comics. Speaking of Siren Girl, if you don't know how to draw comics, just tell her earlier, and wait until the mission is in progress. I just said, isn't this a rhythm that obviously deceives teammates? When facing Makoto Takahashi's questioning, Siren Girl even put on an expression like you didn't ask clearly beforehand. Well, in fact, upon further investigation, this is also Makoto Takahashi's own problem. But the problem is, Siren actually wants to add the character Murasakiri Same from Touhou to her manga and use it as a new character. Takahashi Makoto, you promised before. As long as the cartoonists who participate in your Touhou domination project can use the characters in Touhou, Iwai's Aiko stared at Gao Chiao. Chiao Cheng had a disdainful smile on his face, but now you don't agree to let me use the character of magician Murasakiri Same in the new chapter, you don't mean what you say, huh? I did say that at the time, but Siren Girl. Makoto Takahashi looked at Iwai's Aiko with a gloomy face. I remember I said it before. Only after the plan is completed, the world of Gensikyo will be after we complete the construction. You can summon the characters of the Touhou series in your own inherent barrier to participate in the battle. But now the completion progress of the entire Gensikyo is less than 50%, so the answer is of course no. But the character image of the magician Marisa is very suitable for the new character that will appear in my comics. Teacher Nyizuma said so too. What's going on with the confident and natural expression on his face? Looking at the surprised Takahashi Makoto, Iwai's Aiko's self-confidence has reached the sky. Obviously in the plot I conceived, Marisa Kiri-same can appear as a powerful magician, but you are to deliberately portray this young magician as an unscrupulous thief in the Touhou comic. This kind of prejudiced idea is really annoying. I hate your sister. Can you beat this woman to death who doesn't know the philosophy of cuteness? That is the famous Kiri-same Marisa, the red and white and shameless god teammate. She is a very important character in the entire Touhou series. You are just a siren girl, but you actually want the Tauren to appear in your comics and arrange to become a moral magician. Only an unruly magician can be paired with an unruly Maiko. True love without moral integrity is not allowed to change. This is the truth. This is justice. This is also something that is absolutely not allowed to be blasphemy. The horrified expression on Makoto Takahashi's face had been eroded by the aura called blackening. He silently drew out his wooden sword and was ready to go. God knows, if it weren't for the other cartoonists on the cartoonist side who noticed it. Makoto Takahashi's unusual movements, holding someone tightly, then Makoto Takahashi, who has activated his swastika and entered the dark and violent state, will definitely kill the siren girl to pieces. It's okay to publish fan publications, after all, because of the love for the original work. It's understandable and affirmative to draw fan works. Takahashi Makoto, whose ultimate move was interrupted, narrowed his right eye and stared at Iwai's Aiko, but that can only be done after I dominate Shonen Jump. Even if it's a friendly guest appearance, even if the integrity of the character's personality is maintained, before the plan is completed, it's not allowed. Siren, you insist on doing this, you're courting death. In that case. After a moment of silence, Iwai's Aiko glanced at a yellow-haired onlooker, and did not continue to argue. Instead, she asked for help from her god teammate Nazuma Eiji. What's Nazuma-sensei's opinion? Although I, as the original author, strongly request this, but the manga the person who drew it is Mr. Nazuma, so let's leave this question to Mr. Nazuma, right? Dudu. Unfortunately, because Touhou is very interesting, Marisa-chan is interesting only if it is set like this. So it's not possible. With his hands crossed in front of him, Eiji Nazuma pouted seriously and shook his head. Although what Mr. Aiko said is right, the character of Marisa is indeed very suitable for the magician in the comics, but it's not possible, because the image of Marisa-chan in my mind has been determined, and the one drawn is only Kiri-same Marisa, not a powerful magician character. So it's very regrettable. But Iwai's Aiko tried to start a mouth cannon again after stealing a glance at a yellow-haired man again. But after stealing a glance at a yellow-haired man who is already a married man, the words on her lips can't be said. I can lose to anyone, but only to Aho Mumanjai, only to him, to Gao, no. Iwai's Aiko has been secretly in love with a yellow-haired man since junior high school. Although he was dethroned by the violent girl in the battle for the yellow-haired glasses man, he did not completely let go of the obsession of love in his heart. He tried to forget it in high school but failed. Studying hard was just an excuse to deceive himself. When he was admitted to a prestigious university and published a novel as a novelist, he turned to the cartoonist side and partnered with Nazuma Eiji to draw cartoons. With the cooperation of his god teammate Nazuma Eiji, the cartoon adapted from the original novel by Iwai's Aiko once suppressed the cartoon of the combination of Yashiro Mumha to the edge of being cut off, and even made Yashiro Mumha think of cutting off the funny cartoon and put it into action. When Iwai's Aiko heard that Yashiro Mumha had to bear harsh conditions in order to start a new cartoon, Her heart was full of worries and expectations. It was quite complicated. There was no pleasure of victory, no joy of success, but only endless melancholy. It was not until that time that Iwase Aiko finally understood her feelings. It turned out that she was just using a clumsy way that she didn't even know to get close to the person she had always admired and secretly loved. She knew her feelings, but was unwilling to face them honestly. The final result could only be playing with fire and getting burned, and falling into endless confusion. As the editor-in-chief said before, the cartoonist's comics are the existence that can best reflect the author's heart. Iwase Aiko, who was confused, even with the cooperation of her god teammate Nazuma Eiji, the results of the comics were slipping down little by little, struggling and unable to get redemption. Through the message from editor Minotauro, Iwase Aiko also learned that Nazuma Eiji was not very satisfied with the recent comic content. On the other hand, the object of her love for Yachin Mumanjai finally achieved results and completed the Great Reversal mission. The original mood of worry and expectation disappeared, replaced by a strong unwillingness and endless loss. In this way, the distance is getting farther and farther. When Iwase Aiko joined Takahashi Makoto's so-called Eastern Domination Plan, she originally disdained those idiotic plans of a certain middle school student, and just wanted to observe someone closely. When she saw everyone discussing the content of the comics and the plot of the characters together, and saw the yellow-haired glasses man showing admiration for Takahashi Makoto's creativity, Iwase Aiko suddenly had an idea. As long as the plot and character design of the comics are exciting enough, the ranking of the comics can rise, it can catch up with or even surpass Yajo Mumenha, the distance between us, his eyes. Because she wanted to attract someone's attention, because she wanted to get someone's recognition, even if she knew that some actions were inappropriate, Iwase Aiko still did it, and did it without hesitation. That's why Iwase Aiko was desperate and unceremoniously proposed to Takahashi Makoto that she wanted to introduce the character of Kiri-same Marisa into her new comics. Iwase Aiko, who was thinking in her own world, did not say these things, but Takahashi Makoto, who saw through everything, showed a weird smile on his face. Hey, Siren, I can understand your behavior. After all, everything comes from love. Compared to the angry Takahashi Makoto just now, the smiling Takahashi Makoto at this moment made Iwase Aiko more afraid. I don't know what you are talking about. If you don't know, why do you turn your head away with a red face? Haha, your practice is really not enough, Sir Siren. Siren, since you have embarked on the path of career and emotional extinction, you must carry this awareness through to the moment of your death. You can curse this world, you can hate all humans, you can even distort your own soul and train all the men who chase you to be worse than dogs, but please remember one thing. Unceremoniously using verbal violence to wake Iwase Aiko from her thoughts, Takahashi Makoto's eyes kept wandering between a yellow-haired man and Iwase Aiko, and finally stopped at the latter, the corners of his mouth raised, revealing an expression of as expected. If the comics are burdened with a burden that you cannot bear, then no matter what the result you expect is, it will only be a delusion in the end. Looking at the winking Takahashi Makoto, Iwase Aiko was a little flustered, pouting unhappily, and shouting in exasperation, "All right. I know. If you don't want to use the role of Kiri-same Marisa, but as a participant of Tuhao, I want to stay here and witness the completion of this comic." Is that so? Takahashi Makoto's behavior of secretly glancing at a yellow-haired man made Iwase Aiko's face turn red again, and she unceremoniously performed a combo of hand knives. As expected, Iwase Aiko is a proud stupid woman. In fact, I really think that Iwase Aiko's feelings for the yellow-haired man are quite persistent, so all readers, hold your chest high and confess to your favorite object. If successful, congratulations. If not, prepare to travel through time. Drink. Ha 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 ha. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A middle school cartoonist. Author, MaleProtagonist Email. Chapter 199. The comic Touhou Genso will be serialized in 2 issues of Shonen Jump. For 2 weeks, a comic called Touhou Genso will be published continuously. After the Touhou Genso comic was completed, because the time was too tight, the editorial department did not publicize it too much, but only announced the news in Shonen Jump in advance. There is no doubt that after this news was released, the readers of Shonen Jump were in an uproar. Although readers are very happy about the new comics, the behavior of Touhou Genso squeezing out all the comics in one go and dominating the entire Shonen Jump still made many readers dissatisfied. Any comic that can be serialized for several years naturally has a lot of fans. Seeing that the comics they like in their hearts are suddenly replaced by unknown comics, although it is only for 2 weeks, it is also an intolerable behavior. What is Touhou Genso? I've never heard of it. What are the editors thinking? Serializing Touhou Genso, stop kidding. What about One Piece? I'm still waiting to see the new episode. It doesn't matter what Touhou Genso is, as long as this issue of Gintama doesn't stop. I'm still waiting to see Jin-san. Does anyone know who the author of Touhou Genso is? How dare they monopolize 2 issues of the weekly magazine? I'm curious about who the author is, so awesome. As the leader of the comics industry, Shonen Jump has naturally accumulated a lot of reputation and popularity over the years. For such a decision, a considerable number of readers have taken a neutral attitude and watched it all silently. In the eyes of these readers, since the editorial department of Shonen Jump dared to make such a decision, they must have great confidence in the upcoming serialization of the Touhou Genso comics. As the editor-in-chief often says, comics can be serialized as long as they are interesting. The comic that ranks first in popularity in the reader survey must be an interesting and exciting comic. 1 week before the serialization of Touhou Genso, the newly released Shonen Jump finally announced the list of authors of Touhou Genso. Looking at the information about the author of Touhou Genso on the weekly, many readers were surprised. Oh my god, no way, these people. Feng Guangai Yuan, Nizuma, damn, Yashiro Mumanjai is here too. Is Fukuda, who drew the motorcycle comic before, here too? Are you kidding? Are these cartoonists crazy? So many people drawing a comic? What kind of monster is this Touhou Genso? It's definitely a rubbish comic. With so many cartoonists of different styles, can you read what they put together temporarily? The recognition and support of readers for the creation of a comic is the greatest encouragement for cartoonists. But for the cartoonists who have worked hard for 2 months, they don't care about this at all now, but want to take a good rest for a while. Because these 2 months are really too hard. Staying up late is a common occurrence. Huh? Is this enough? Takahashi Makoto raised his wine glass, took a sip, looked at the tired people, pulled the eye mask on his face, and showed a teasing smile at the corner of his mouth. You are still far away. Don't treat us mortals as monsters like you. Landai lay on the seat and complained weakly. By the way, since Touhou Gensokyo has been completed, then of course, we have to hold a banquet next. Takahashi Makoto raised his wine glass, and Nizuma Eiji held the juice, and they shouted in unison. Hey, 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 we are human beings, just cartoonists, not monsters. The silver-haired Fukuda brother took off his headscarf for the first time, lying on the ground with a tired face, turning his head to stare at Nizuma Eiji, and Nizuma Master, please don't be infected by a certain Chuyunibu. Because it's very interesting, Nizuma Eiji put down the juice, curled his lips, and began to attack the food on the table. Woo woo, as expected of Lord Howin, the ability of the top chef is really well deserved. Of course, Takahashi Makoto sipped his wine while entering the far-sighted sighing mode. That was in the summer when I was 10 years old. In order to save the hotel left by my friend's mother, I accepted the challenge of a stray dog's counterattack with the signature dish Mapo tofu. After that, in order to save the cooking world, I went through a lot of hard training. I passed the exam for a top chef and continued to fight against the dark cooking world. By the way, isn't that person called Lu Angxing? When did it become a Chuyunibu pronounced as Hao Winkyoma and written as Takahashi Makoto? The cartoonist was completely speechless. Although he didn't read much, he was still a bit stupid. Ahem, he had read the story of a certain little chef. Hey, Chen, I want to ask you a question. The man with yellow hair and glasses seemed to have hesitated for a long time, because the question in his mind had been lingering for nearly a month. The time sequence of Tuhao Gensekyo is a bit confusing. Why did you choose to draw it this way? Yes, when the cartoonist was busy with the painting work, the man with yellow glasses found a problem. As far as the timeline of the entire Tuhao is concerned, it looks quite confusing. Take the main character Ryemu in the comics as an example. When she solved the Red Mist incident, she was already a powerful shrine maiden. But later, Ryemu's childhood story appeared. Although it can be explained by flashbacks, the timeline does not seem to have a normal order. I didn't ask before, on the one hand, because I saw that everyone was very tight on time, especially Takahashi Makoto, who often stayed up all night. On the other hand, I, who was also good at plot, couldn't understand Takahashi Makoto's purpose, which made the man with yellow glasses a little unwilling. So these days, the man with yellow glasses didn't ask, but kept thinking hard, trying to interpret Takahashi Makoto's purpose. But, to this day, the man with yellow glasses still doesn't understand Takahashi Makoto's thoughts. The timeline is chaotic? Humph. Of course. Because everything in this world comes from chaos. The origin of the universe is chaos, and disorder is the real root. Hey, Mr. Yellow-haired Glasses, you are wondering why you don't draw it in chronological order? Start by telling the story of Ryemu's childhood, and then go to the various abnormal events that followed. Takahashi Makoto looked at Mr. Yellow-haired Glasses and nodded in agreement, with a weird smile on his face. Then what about the establishment of Gensekyo in the comics? Compared to Ryemu's childhood story, this event is the earliest, right? But that's not right. The appearance of monsters, the development of humans, and the gradually powerful humans and monsters fell into an opposition situation, and then Gensekyo came into being. According to the timeline, this is the origin, right? That's right. But what you just said seems to have been heard somewhere. A light flashed in the mind of the man with yellow glasses, and he exclaimed, this, isn't this the ending of the Millennium Kyoto chapter of the manga Nura? Correct. Takahashi Makoto gave a thumbs up and boasted to the man with yellow glasses, so, the timeline is not reliable at all. And the most important thing is that the content of only 2 issues of Shonen Jump is not enough for Tuhao Gensekyo. The cartoonist rolled his eyes at each other. He has already monopolized the content of 2 issues. Isn't this enough? Takahashi Makoto, do you want to monopolize the entire Shonen Jump? Although this crazy idea is good and powerful, it is absolutely impossible. Hey, Mr. Yellow-haired Glasses, what do you think after reading Tuhao Genso? Takahashi Makoto did not answer Mr. Yellow-haired Glasses' question directly, but after a moment of silence, he gave a hint. Do you feel that the entire Tuhao Genso is not completely drawn, and many characters are not explained clearly, and what kind of stories behind many monsters are not drawn? Well, the comics are very interesting, and there are so many characters that it's dazzling, but as you said, there is indeed a feeling that the story is incomplete. Not only Mr. Yellow-haired Glasses, who was in deep thought, but also several cartoonists who had heard it before, all listened with curiosity, and Nizuma Eiji also stopped stuffing food into his mouth and looked at Takahashi Makoto with expectation. Mr. Yellow-haired Blue-headed, have you ever thought about drawing stories that don't appear in the comics? After looking at each other expectantly, they fell into silence, and the good friends completely chose to ignore the tampered name. King of Black Flame, are you interested in drawing some stories about Gensekyo monsters? A glimmer of light flashed in Nyizuma Eiji's eyes, and he seemed to be in a state of burning his small universe. Little sea otter, don't lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. You must have a lot of inspiration by participating in this Eastern domination plan. Putting away his previous silly look, the serious little sea otter nodded, and his loyalty to the Phoenix Court Kijinchen god rose to the full value. Messenger of justice, compared to the laws of clauses and complicated false cases, the unrestrained monster stories are really interesting, right? Gao Bin, who could not deny it, nodded silently. By the way, because the content of the comics involves laws and cases, Gao Bin got the title. Silver-haired Fukuda brother, hot-blooded violent comics are really good, but compared to you who likes borderline comics, the battles between female monsters may give you new insights, right? Fukuda blushed and turned his head away embarrassedly, unexpectedly shy. Miss, you are the same. And the mermaid who has been eyeing Marisa. All the cartoonists on the cartoonist side were named by Makoto Takahashi. As the gods of the Tuhao world and the creators of the Tuhao world, all we can do is to create a world, nothing more. As for what kind of development path the world chooses, what kind of development model it enters, and whether the result is evolution or destruction, all of this is determined by the persistent love in the hearts of humans who enter this world. Miracles are called miracles because, in the final analysis, they are all because of love. Makoto Takahashi raised the wine glass on the table and raised his glass to the cartoonists who were in a daze. Come on, raise your glasses, gods who built Tuhao Gensekyo. May the world we built successfully dominate the world and become an eternal legend. The cartoonists smiled at each other and raised their glasses at the same time. Although Makoto Takahashi's words were still speechless, he was right in one thing. This comic, which is the result of everyone's hard work, will definitely be a success. A middle school cartoonist. Author, Mao Do Sde Mao. Chapter 200. Because they want to serialize the manga Tuhao Genso, they temporarily suspended several popular manga. This is really overbearing. Although we don't know what the content of Tuhao is, readers, especially most of the old readers of Shonen Jump, have begun to resist this manga in their hearts. Although in fact, popular mangas such as One Piece, Naruto, and Gintama need to be suspended for 2 weeks due to the author's reasons, many readers still think that this is just an excuse deliberately released by Shonen Jump. Of course, there is curiosity. After all, no matter what the content of a manga that can make Shonen Jump reach this level, it is at least the first time in the comics industry. When the new issue of Shonen Jump was released, many readers were curious and wanted to see what the manga of Tuhao Genso was about, but many people were stunned when they saw the cover of the magazine. This outfit is a shrine maiden, and the red and white shrine maiden costume is cute, but, the woman next to her holding a broom and wearing black and white clothes is a witch, right? Many readers felt puzzled when they saw Marisa's appearance. Isn't the appearance of Marisa holding a broom the witch image that often appears in many novels and comics? Why is there a witch standing next to the witch? According to convention, the characters who can appear on the cover are definitely important figures in the entire comic, so when seeing the two girls on the cover, many readers already know that the story told by this comic should be about these two girls. Most of the comics involving witches are about gods, demons, and monsters, while the comics involving witches always involve surreal content such as magic. Although both belong to the mysterious side, the combination of witches and witches. Although Shonen Jump has also done a short promotion before, looking at the names in the author column still makes many readers shocked. There is no need to say much about Feng Guangayuan Kuma and Nizuma Eiji, and every reader has seen the names of Fukuda group cartoonists such as Yashiro Mumanjai in the weekly magazine. What kind of content will a comic that brings together so many cartoonists be? Many readers have already begun to look forward to it. Mr. Suwako, please take more. The girl holding a huge wooden barrel in her hand bit her lip and looked very strenuous, asking for help from the person named Suwako next to her. "It doesn't matter what happened to me, it's all Kanako's fault. You should be grateful that I'm willing to help you." With her hands crossed and her head in her arms, Suwako, who was in a Lolita figure, walked aside with a tray on her head and a relaxed look. The two characters on the cover did not appear at the beginning, but many readers were not anxious. After all, in many comic novels, the protagonist did not appear at the first time. Resisting the curiosity in my heart, I turned to the next page of the comics and saw a Japanese-style room door. After the Japanese-style door was opened, I saw a large group of people gathered together and held a banquet. It looked very lively. "Hey! Bring me more wine. Do you know how much trouble you have caused me this time?" Many readers recognized at a glance that this girl who was shouting and wearing a shrine maiden costume was the shrine maiden on the cover of the previous cover. However, this shrine maiden is not as sacred and unbearable as described in previous novels and comics. Instead, she is a bit like a drunk and troublesome guest in a tavern, which makes many readers feel that the image of the shrine maiden in their hearts is suddenly shattered into pieces. "Sorry, I informed you a little late, but we are also thinking about the future of Gensokyo in our own way." The girl sitting on the steps, holding a huge bowl in her left hand and a huge wine bottle in her right hand, kept pouring wine, full of generosity. "Gensokyo? Does it refer to the place where they are?" The readers who don't know the reason at all, continue to read slowly out of curiosity, and find that the content after that is that the location of the banquet is unknown, and the characters can only vaguely understand the names of several characters in the dialogue. The content at the beginning of the whole comic is simply the bickering of cute girls in the banquet. Such a comic, except for the cute female characters, has no highlights at all. Many readers have such a feeling. Although through the content of the comics, we know that most of these female characters in the comics are monsters, but the simple banquet dialogue does not seem to have much meaning. The group of people from the Scarlet Devil Mansion arrived late, adding a few more people to the banquet. Looking at the little loli walking in front, the maid, and another girl behind her, the conversation at the banquet suddenly shifted to the Red Mist incident that happened before. It was also at this time that many readers realized why the first chapter of Touhou Gensokyo was named the Red Mist Incident. And the witch Marisa, who was on the cover of the magazine, entered the commentary mode with the maid as a temporary guest narrator and began to tell the story that happened before, which is the so-called Red Mist Incident. "Stop it quickly, Cerno." The petite girl with wings behind her was suspended in the air, and her anxious look made many readers feel sympathetic. There is no need to narrate too much. After seeing the shape, many readers knew at the first time that this was the legendary fairy. "Don't show mercy. Tremble as much as you can. In front of my true power, Cerno is also a fairy. What's dancing behind her is not wings, but shining ice flakes." Cerno released a gorgeous move, spread her body, and the cold current formed by the blizzard rushed towards Marisa. Although it is unknown why Cerno suddenly attacked Marisa, the sudden change from the usual banquet dialogue to a battle still made many readers look forward to it. They look forward to how Marisa will fight back, and look forward to, this is really indispensable in summer." Marisa sat on the broom and regarded Cerno's attack as a way to cool down in summer. While many readers were surprised, they also felt a little happy. Cerno's seemingly gorgeous moves were actually used to cool down. Many readers have a new understanding of Marisa. A luxury villa suddenly appeared next to the misty lake. When Marisa heard that there might be treasures in the mansion, she couldn't wait to fly over to find out, and knocked the aggressive Cerno dizzy. After entering the villa, Marisa followed the underground stairs and came to a room. Broken dolls scattered all over the floor, as well as flying knives, and a coffin on the bed. Seeing these weird things in the comics, many readers swallowed their saliva unconsciously and became nervous unconsciously, especially when they saw Marisa carefully open the coffin. The readers, who were half curious and half afraid, turned to the next page of the comics without hesitation. As a result, there was nothing in the coffin. Like Marissa, the relieved readers also felt a little disappointed in their hearts. Is this the result of the weird atmosphere created before? Who is it? According to the voice behind her, Marissa quickly turned back and found that there was nothing behind her except the door that had just been opened. The comic turned to the top of the door, where a little girl was suspended in the air, holding a little bear doll tightly in her hands, and behind her were wings that looked like gems connected together. The little girl slowly landed and looked at Marissa with curiosity. Are you human? This is the first time I see a human other than Sakia. The little girl came to Marissa holding the little bear doll, tilted her head, and smiled like a girl next door. My name is Flandra, and I have been locked up here. Such a cute little girl was locked up here? It's really too much. Many readers saw Flandra's self-narration, and their Lolita control souls awakened, and their sympathy overflowed. But in the comic, a magic circle suddenly appeared behind Flandra, and without saying a word, she directly launched a barrage attack on Marissa. Although Marissa, who had been on guard, dodged in time, the violent explosion also destroyed the wall of the room. Ahahaha, I dodged it. Fran clapped her hands, looking happy, and the smile on her face was even cuter than before, but in the eyes of readers, Fran's cuteness dropped by 1 level, and her cruelty increased by 10 levels. The sympathy that was overflowing before, or the soul of Lolita control that had just awakened, did not last long before it was completely shattered. I have always been bored, there is always no one to play with me, and the toys are broken all of a sudden. Fran lowered her head and narrated her own story. Just as she said, the teddy bear in her hand suddenly swelled from the inside out. Fran looked up at Marissa, 2 sharp teeth were exposed, and her face was still smiling, but it could no longer be described as cute, but the word ferocious was more appropriate. I want to play with Marissa. Hum ha ha ha. Fran, who was laughing wildly, turned into 2, 3, 4. Damn, is this a shadow clone? Seeing this, many readers couldn't help but scream, but they denied this guess in their hearts. In the battle between Fran and Marissa, although Marissa has been fleeing, Fran has been chasing her non-stop, and also used barrages for long-range attacks, which made many readers feel the intensity of the battle. However, looking at Fran's small body in the comics, the barrages have such powerful destructive power. Many readers with delicate minds have already guessed why this little girl was locked up before. Previously, because of the suspension of several popular comics, many readers felt resistance. Especially at the beginning, most readers were resentful and intended to find faults when watching Touhou Gensokyo with resistance, but now as the comics unfold, the memories caused by the banquet turned to the battle between Marissa and Fran, which made many readers fall into a state of fascination and forget the original intention of finding faults and troubles at the beginning. Although many characters appeared in the first episode, there are actually few characters whose names readers really remember. The reason why Makoto Takahashi used the story of the Red Fog mutation as the beginning is mostly because Touhou Red Devil Village was the first work in the Touhou series in his previous life. After all, the things you first encounter are the hardest to forget. Well, Gensokyo has begun because of the second young lady, the second update. Here it goes. I wanted to write more, but my body hasn't recovered yet, and then a certain cat was so stupid as to look at a Lolita girl in a garbage dump, and both my body and mind suffered devastating setbacks. I haven't practiced enough. Everyone, go to bed early, good night.